Guys, it's playoff time. How about that, hey? Oh, and to get us kick started, we thought we might run you through the playoff series and what they look like. We'll probably have 8 videos coming out pretty shortly, one after another. But today we're going to start with the Dallas Stars versus the Minnesota Wild playoff series. And the reason we'll start with this one is this has just been a talk throughout the year. Obviously, when we did our mid-season review, Jaden and myself had Dallas. Jaden had Dallas making the Stanley Cup playoffs. I had Minnesota making the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's just been a little bit of a rivalry throughout the year from the two of us. And given that they're matching up against each other, we thought, what better series to start with? To get us kicked off and start talking about it a little bit. Jade, you want to take us off?
Yeah, the two green teams come head to head in the first round. They faced each other 4 times in the regular season, both coming with away with 2 wins. The Dallas did go to OT in their 2 losses though, which they did quite often during the season. Is going to OT. They're always competitive. Um, Look, two very strong teams. I'd say they've both had their hiccups throughout the season. Having a look at their best top 5 point players, you can see that obviously Kaprizov missed a little bit of the season, missing 15 games, whereas looks like most of Dallas team were pretty healthy throughout the whole season. And we got the stats in the middle of the power play, the penalty kill, the goals for per game and goals against per game for each team. And it looks like it's just small margins, but looks like Dallas is better off in pretty much all the margins. And yeah, look, two very strong teams. Robertson had an amazing year. Um, they're two teams that play like actual teams and cohesive, and I think it's going to go to 7. As you can see at our predictions on the bottom, we've just gone flip flopped on who we think will come out on top in the end.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is I'm not going to say this is going to be the best series out of the first round, but because I actually think there's quite a lot of series in this first round that are just going to be insane. But this is one of the ones that I'm absolutely looking forward to. I think it's going to be cracking from both ends, and I'm actually if I look at who I think is going to make the Stanley Cup final from the West, for me, it's one of these two teams or probably Colorado. So yeah, it's amazing to think that one of these teams are going to be kicked out of the first round, even though out of my 3 teams from the West to make the final, these 2 teams are in it. So one of them gets a first round exit. The other one, in my opinion, goes very close to a Stanley Cup final. Um, but yeah, it's got all the makings for an absolute phenomenal series. It just feels like a 7 game series as well. It's gonna be tight. I would suspect that there's not going to be too many blowout games. There might be one where one team just has an off night, the other team has a great night, and it ends up being a bit of a blowout. But I can't see there being too many games like that. I think it's going to be tight right until the final siren, potentially even going into overtimes. Um, and yeah, like you look at the stats, yeah, Minnesota on the goals for front, they're not a huge powerhouse in that aspect, but what they do well is they defend well. They've got a fantastic goalie tandem in Fleury and Gustafsson. Um, and yeah, power play percentage is reasonable and their penalty kill is pretty strong too. And then on the other end, Dallas have all those stats as well. They've just probably got a bit more firepower on the front end, which is going to be the question.
Mm.
Can Dallas get a hold of Minnesota's defense? But yeah, in my opinion, absolute cracking series this will be. I've got the Wild in 7, winning 4-3. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. This has been one of the rivalries throughout the year that's sort of set us apart. The last time we did the mid-season one, and you picked Dallas, I picked Minnesota. The very next day, Dallas beat Minnesota. So I'm hoping it goes my way this time.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
yeah, the
nah,
Wild can
I
get
think
up.
it's going to be an interesting series. I think it's probably going to be the best series alongside the Devils and Rangers. And I think that probably is right in a sense because the second and third from the divisions coming up against each other, generally two powerhouses. So it
Mhm.
makes sense that that series and the Devils Rangers series will probably be the best in the first round. Um, I honestly can't see this not going to seven. Just the way Dallas always likes to stay close in games. Minnesota's always there. I do feel like if a team was to be blown out though, it would be the Wild, just because sometimes they're just not able to put up the goals to be able to blow out the team. Whereas Dallas can start pouring some on with their offense. You know, if Robertson or Ben go out and have a night, or even in hints. Whereas really you've only got a Kaprizov and Boldy on the other side. So yeah, look, I think it's going to be an amazing series. I honestly think it could even come down to just who has the less of injuries. And that's another thing that Kaprizov's had during the season. He has had a couple, so it'll be interesting to see if they can all stay healthy. I know that Ben and Seguin and all that are getting older as well, but so is Zuccarello. So very interesting. They almost finished on the same amount of points through the season as well, so very even teams. And yeah, I think this could pretty much decide how the West plays out um, in the future going to the Cup, is basically who wins this round.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely two of the strongest teams in the West. And yeah, I don't think they're gonna let anybody down. And as I said, it's kind of a shame that they're coming up against each other in the first round. Because I think, if these two were to come up against each other in the second, or I know they can't come up against each other in the third, given they're both from the Central, unless the wild card positioned it like that. But yeah, it'd be a great. These two teams would be great in like in a Western Conference final. You know, winner goes to the Stanley Cup. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it comes to an end for one of these teams in the first round. Because yeah, I think both these teams are absolute powerhouses. But yeah, I'm hoping that the Wild can get it done, and
Mm,
you're hoping the Stars can get it done. So it's
yeah,
going to be an interesting series either way. But I think um, if you're gonna pick a series to watch, this is definitely one of them.
yeah. The last couple of things I'd like to add: the last time Dallas, they were in 2020, they went all the way to the Stanley Cup final, and then last time Minnesota, I think, were in the playoffs, got out the first round, was in like 2015. Um,
It's
so
been a while.
it's been a long time. I don't think they've gotten out of the first round that many times in their history. I think it's like four or something. I can't remember the stats, but yeah. So the history is not on their side, but this is what the playoffs are for. You make your own history, and I guess that's all I've got for this one.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, it just gives them a chance to change, change what's sort of considered as a norm for them is getting kicked out in the first round. It's a good opportunity. They're a different team than they've been in recent years. They've got different players. And
Mm,
yeah, I think they've got a lot going for them. But yeah, Dallas probably do have a little bit more of that experience of going deep in the playoffs, especially only a few
yeah,
years ago doing so.
it goes a long way.
And
It
that's probably
does.
gonna exactly, it's probably gonna play into Dallas's hands. So yeah, it's definitely one of those series that is going to be really hard to pick. And it's why I can see it going 7 games as well. Because I think it's just going to be ebbs and flows, momentum shifts,
I think a lot of
and
OT
yeah,
games as well. I'd
a lot
say
of OT games.
at least
I
three of
think,
them go to OT. Um,
yeah, I think
if
it'll be low scoring as well. Like you're probably going to find that each game they're only scoring 2 or 3 goals each.
mm,
Um, I don't think you're going to see like 5-4, 6-4, those sort of games. I think you're going to see,
mm.
yeah, 2-1, 3-2 sort of thing.
I guess the only last stat I can have a look at there is the plus minuses. That Dallas has probably got one of the best plus minuses in their top five players and points,
Or
alongside
do they
teams
ever?
like Devils and Boston. Whereas Minnesota's is pretty lackluster, even having a negative up there in Zuccarello. So yeah, it is what it is. But I just thought that's an interesting stat to point out too.
Definitely, definitely interesting.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so yeah,
All right.
wrap
Well,
it up there, and
like,
yeah,
subscribe, leave a comment below what you think of this series, who you think your favorite is to come out, if it goes to 7 or not, and how they fare in the rest of the playoffs. But until then, stay tuned for our videos covering the other teams, and we'll see you guys soon.
take care, guys.